The 1More ComfoBuds Mini is an incredible piece of engineering. We've never seen earbuds so tiny that can have noise cancelling, an in-ear sensor, wireless charging, and app support. Easily the smallest earbud we've seen to date. But it's not without its quirks. Goedendag, we are DHRME, the homies reviewing mad electronics.
So, we gotta start with the size, right? These buds are tiny, minuscule, diminutive. I mean, just look at them in Rowan's big ears. And while we've had tiny buds before, all the features you get with these really make it something special. The sound, well, we'll talk about that in a bit, but this hardware miniaturization is quite an achievement from 1More. And it's not just subtle, stealthy looks. These buds might be the best buds to sleep in that we've worn. Look, we don't sleep with earbuds in, but if we did, we'd sleep with these. That's what we said. The app also alludes to this by giving you built-in soothing sounds. The size can also be a downside though, because if you have fat fingers, you may have trouble taking them out and they get stuck in the wrong way when you put them back in. That's what she said. The touch surface on both buds worked very reliably for us and we didn't have any issues with errors. Unfortunately, the controls out of the box aren't the best and we had to go into the app to enable volume control.
Now here's a counterintuitive thing. These buds are small, but the transducer that sits under the tip is bigger than most buds. It's not a huge difference, but every millimeter matters when we're talking about ear hole size. I mean, everyone has different ears and maybe this is comfortable for a lot of you, but I have medium-sized ears and even I find it hard to use for more than 30 minutes at a stretch due to the outward pressure it applies to the entrance of the ear canal. Again, this subject is subjective, but for us we think that diameter could have been a bit smaller. But the size of this object is just fine. The case is very portable but isn't as small as the earbuds and looks rather unoriginal. Pixel. It comes with all the goods though. USB Type-C, wireless charging and fast charging. These buds also have a respectable IPX water resistance for light workouts and splashes. And given their size, these buds have impressive battery life. 5 hours with ANC on and an additional 15 hours from the case. Oh, and let's talk about that ANC.
That minus 40 dB ANC that 1More advertises is no joke. In the chart here, you can see that lower and mid sounds are clearly attenuated looking at the blue dashed line. When you wear these, you really get the sense of all that noise being eliminated, which again is excellent for this size. Surprisingly, the transparency is also good. We could hear voices clearly while the lower end rumble was clearly eliminated. The downside on the transparency is that there is a lot of white noise that's audible, especially if you're in a very quiet environment. But in even moderately noisy environment or with music on, you're not going to notice. This might not be a deal breaker, but if you're sensitive to that, good to know.
What was also killer was the wind noise reduction. It definitely makes a difference in wind. You can hear your music clearly. So if you're on a bike or walking outside, this mode makes these earbuds a very, very good proposition. Now here's a thing 1More could work on. These buds always reset to normal when you take them out of the case, which is a shame. It doesn't remember the last setting that you used. But when you switch to noise cancelling, it does remember if you last used full, mild or wind noise reduction, so that's good. So say you're on a bike or a run and used wind noise reduction the last time, you can go back to that mode just using the touch surface of the buds. That's a big relief. It would also be a big relief if you could hit that subscribe button. But don't hit that notification bell though. In fact, turn off all notifications and take control of your life.
1More doesn't let you take control of the sound though. Before digging into the sound, we want to say that we didn't use Sound ID at all. The last time we did use it, we got very variable results. Sound ID is a system that tries to customize the sound based on a number of tests. It plays a bunch of sounds, you choose the ones you prefer, and based on your selections, it tries to guess your preference, and to be honest, we prefer to keep things simple. So while that's a big selling point for these buds, what would have helped is if Sound ID spat out some parameters we could actually see and play with. You know, maybe an EQ setting, a soundstage slider, something. That way we would know what Sound ID was thinking we liked.
The one thing we've always said about 1More buds is that they have a significant EQ shift when you toggle noise cancelling on or off. And that's true with the ComfoBuds Mini as well. It's enough to say that they sound like completely different buds. This graph illustrates it so clearly that we're almost proud of our ears that detected the change before we had the tools to show them to you. There are three things to notice here. The clear spike between 1 to 2K, the dip at 700K, and the bass boost at 20 to 40K. So you basically get two different sound profiles, the off and the ANC. Off is closer to neutral, but leans a bit towards the darker end for our taste. Whereas with full ANC, 1More goes for a more dynamic V shape. Unfortunately, that ANC sound is a bit boomy and the bass sounds woolly for its price class. This overpowers everything else, and along with the other two graph irregularities, leads to a much darker, boomier sound that, to be honest, just doesn't do these drivers justice. I suppose the assumption is that if you need ANC, you're in a very noisy environment, and then this will compensate for that. So in a way, I think it does make sense, but just for sound, the normal mode is much better and probably what we would choose, especially in a quieter environment. Better mids representation and more of a neutral sound, but with a darker treble. The fact that these buds only support AAC also means that they aren't going to be the best in terms of resolution. Sometimes this weakness can be compensated with good tuning, but not in this case. So when it comes to sound, they're okay, they're fine. They could have been good, but they are not in the top tier for us. Sad, because they have so much promise. So if you're getting these buds, we highly recommend you use a third-party app like Wavelet to EQ these. But third-party apps aren't without their risks as well, and you could end up damaging your hardware, so be careful. So one more, please get away from Sound ID and go back to EQ or even well-tuned EQ presets, please.
And you can do EQ presets because there's an app. It's a very basic app with the ability to see battery status on the case and buds, switching to different ANC levels. More on that in a bit. Change what the touch controls do. You can customize just two things, double tap and triple tap. There's that annoying Sound ID, firmware upgrade, and soothing sounds you can play that we mentioned before. And if that wasn't enough, 1More's managed to cram in an in-ear sensor on this thing to automatically play and pause music when you take it out of your ears. So you big boys making those fat buds, you've got no excuse. And while on extras, you get a good selection of 4 silicone tip sizes in the box. It doesn't come with dual device support though. There are also no additional settings for phone calls, and while on phone calls, why don't you listen to them for yourselves? We've compared them to an industry standard, the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2. Skip the test and jump ahead to the conclusion if you want.
Galaxy Buds 2 quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. 1More ComfoBuds Mini quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Galaxy Buds 2 noisy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. 1More ComfoBuds Mini noisy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Galaxy Buds 2 windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. 1More ComfoBuds Mini windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. In quiet conditions, the ComfoBuds Mini sounds better and even louder than the Galaxy Buds 2. But when it comes to background noise, the 1More ComfoBuds Mini takes an approach that makes it uneven and less reliable. You see, in the test, the voice was well isolated and the noise very well suppressed. So it seems like the 1More won out, right? Well, in this particular test, maybe. But we've seen time and again that when buds choose to go for this approach, aggressive reduction of background noise, they become less reliable when the background noise gets louder or just changes. So sure, in quiet or moderately loud environments, this works well, but in louder environments, this will almost certainly result in the speaker being harder to understand. The same is true for windy conditions. The Galaxy Buds 2 kinda lets in everything, and the 1More really tries to isolate the voice. This can result in certain frequencies or even words completely being absent. So while on calls, remember, if it's getting too loud or windy, you may not want to use these buds.
So, are the 1More ComfoBuds Mini worth the money? Look, these buds are not perfect, and we think 1More made an error of judgment by choosing to exclude EQ in favor of Sound ID. But they have something going for them that no other buds do. A tiny footprint, very effective ANC and transparency, decent microphones, and a very reasonable price. What are some alternatives at this price point? We consider the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro or Buds 2 or the Edifier Neo Buds Pro. The latter ticks a lot of boxes for us, and the Samsung is a very solid offering. For something more stylish, the Nothing Ear 1 is also a decent choice. Hey, maybe we should make a video for best ANC buds around $100. You've been getting comfo with your minis, and we've been DHRME. Namaste.